Say hi to the streamers.
Well, hello, streamers. Hello, YouTube and Facebook listeners. Yes, we're back here at Gay USA, and with any luck, you can actually hear us.
And if you're tuning in and right now, you have a chance to see Kelly Clarkson this afternoon have Alabama Pride on at 3 o'clock.
Okay. What, NBC?
Yep, NBC. Central Alabama Pride.
Yes.
But I'm always impressed by people who do things in those areas.
We're everywhere, Andy.
We are.
And I'll have a radiation update.
Oh, yes. Okay.
And we have to really escalate the noise we make so that we'll be heard.
Read the headlines first. Or start? Welcome to Gay USA. I'm Andy Humm.
There you are. I'm Ann Northrop.
And how are you, Ann?
Oh, it's time for ABC, Ann's breast cancer update.
All right.
I'm fine. I'm good. But I'm starting radiation treatments. I've had a few, and they're having a little trouble adjusting the machines to my anatomy to figure out how to correctly penetrate my body with the big rays. And they said to me yesterday, your heart is in the way.
We always knew Ann had heart.
Well, evidently I have a big heart because they're trying to strategize a way around it. So today I go back and they talk to me about what the strategy is and can I continue those treatments and how are we going to do it that'll make it work without hurting me. So these are the little obstacles you run up against in the midst of this treatment. Well, otherwise, fine. I went back to the gym yesterday for the second time, and that felt great.
And you seem in good spirits, despite the fact that the country is falling apart as well.
Well, when I concentrate on my cancer, I feel good. When I concentrate on the country,
that's the answer, folks.
It's a whole other deal.
That's the answer. Well, shall we get to the news?
Sure.
Well, we had World Pride turning DC LGBTQ.
To which I say, if only. But corners of it, certainly. More corners of it than there are protesters in LA, evidently. But in another part of the country, San Antonio, Texas, has elected a lesbian mayor.
7th largest city. House Republicans voted to criminalize gender-affirming care.
Well, that's fun. And they never give up. 10 years into legal same-sex marriage in the United States, the Southern Baptists have vowed to create a campaign to repeal it, and they don't care how long it takes.
You probably read a lot about this. The Supreme Court did give a straight woman the right to sue for discrimination based on sexual orientation, but we're going to clarify that decision.
Yeah, because the headlines seem to say they voted for her as if she had won. No, she still has to go through trial. Trump, on the other hand, marked World Pride by eliminating all funding for the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifelines LGBTQ plus youth specialized services.
Cruelty is the point. But Trump was ordered to restore housing and transportation funds that were cut over the gender ideology of the recipients.
And we hit Trump's deadline of June 6th. Now trans soldiers all over the military are being thrown out involuntarily, although some are vowing to stay and fight.
Simone Biles calls Riley Gaines sick for her attacks on transgender athletes.
Yeah, that had a little back and forth. Lambda Legal Defense, the great heroes in the legal fight against Trump and all the crazies, has raised a record amount of money in a campaign to fight anti-LGBTQ discrimination. They raised hundreds of millions.
It's a record. Anti-LGBTQ violence and murder in Philadelphia, Los Angeles, Nashville, and San Antonio.
And a trans American is seeking asylum in Canada.
ACT UP veteran Jeffrey Griglack has died.
What a great guy. And a federal judge has blocked Trump's defunding of major HIV and AIDS health services.
And you probably saw that Cole Escola won a Tony, and so did a lot of other LGBTQ people.
Yeah, stay tuned for that. We'll leave as much time for it as we can.
So, DC Pride, the whole world Pride thing, this went on for weeks. The big event seemed to be just DC Pride. That was the regular old parade, and that's where a lot of people came. But then you had this international march for freedom on the Sunday, the next day, which was not, as I would say, as well attended.
Well, part of it was the weather. They had rain on Sunday, and that stopped it. But we just showed you a large portion of Gilbert Baker's rainbow flag. I think that's a piece of the mile-long flag. It's not the whole mile-long flag. That was paraded. Go ahead to the next one. And
they
that's
marched.
The protest march,
That's
right?
the protest march from the around the Lincoln Memorial, et cetera. They had
a rally.
They had a rally.
Yeah, the Lincoln Memorial.
That was the international event. But again, most of it seemed to be focused on the Saturday Pride Parade.
Yeah, and the consensus seems to be that it was moderately successful. The crowd was not the 3 million they had hoped for. A lot of people were scared away. The weather also got in the way. But
especially international visitors who are afraid to fly here now.
Certainly, but everyone's afraid to go out of the house these days for various reasons. So in that sense, the fact that there were crowds and there were events for a couple of weeks made it, as I say, moderately successful.
And there was a back and forth over closing DuPont Circle. They put up a fence, they took it down, they put it up, they put it down. And apparently in the end, it was open. But
yes, in the end. But it's these scare tactics again. It's not unlike what's going on in LA this week with bringing in the Marines and the National Guard. It's total overkill, totally unnecessary. Even in New York with all the protests, the chief of police here, or the commissioner, says we don't need any of that. We can handle our protesters. And they've arrested more here than they have in LA. But in D.C., they wanted to close off DuPont Circle for safety and vandalism. And
Trump is threatening anybody who comes to Washington to protest him with fierce action against them. But we're all going to be marching on that day around the country. There will be no King's Day march in Washington. It's in 1,800 other cities now. So it was about 1.5 million last time. That could be 3 million people easily around the country. I mean, just Google the name of your hometown, no King's Day, June 14th, and you'll find a thing near you.
Trump, of course, refused to acknowledge Pride Month in the middle of this.
Yes.
I don't know why anyone thought he would. I guess he has made promises in the past. But he did have the Department of Education declare that June is Title IX month instead, which is meant to be a slap at trans women playing sports, I think.
There was also a rally for Andre Jose Hernandez Romero, the gay guy from Venezuela who was thrown into the El Salvador gulag. There they are speaking. They had about 200 people for that at the U.S. Supreme Court, but we still don't know anything about what happened to him or if he's alive.
Yeah, they just won't talk about any of it. There is a trans woman, Mexican, OJM are the initials by which she's referred to. She was raped and faced with death threats in Mexico. She filed for asylum in Portland, Oregon, was grabbed by ICE there. Her asylum claim was canceled. She was kidnapped to Tacoma, Washington, and the lawyers cannot find her or contact her.
Well, and in terms of Andre, Representative Robert Garcia of California, and 50 Democrats are demanding the State Department conduct a wellness check on him. So they wrote a letter about that.
Yeah, good luck. So you know what's going on.
Yes.
It's all a mess.
And there were huge protests. You've seen all the stuff about protests against the abduction of people in immigration raids and things like that. Here in New York, so Trump sends troops to LA. Here in New York, we've got 25 people or 24 got arrested. These people from Rise and Resist inside Trump Tower.
Yeah.
No troops were sent to protect his home building.
Well, it's a public space. Why would they be arrested?
They're arrested when they sat down, but this went on for about 40 minutes, and they weren't letting people in and out of the building. Somebody said they saw Eric Trump going by, so Daddy knew about it.
Do you think they talk about anything but business?
No.
But all right, let's go to some of the still pictures there of people getting arrested. And there's
Kate Barnhart from New Alternatives for Homeless LGBTQ Youth, and Jamie Bauer. And there's the people outside the Trump Tower being led to the police vans for their
all very
arrest.
calmly.
And there's
Kate being put in the van.
Yes. So
they got out in a few hours. They were not held overnight.
They were given 2 summonses.
Oh boy.
Yeah. And then Trump continues his attacks. Well, why don't you talk about the BET Awards?
Oh well, the BET Awards, which always have some important moments. One of the awards was won as Best Female Hip Hop Artist, was won by Doechii, who is a well-known hip hop performer and out bisexual. And she got up and gave a speech that was the most political and really almost the only political speech at the whole event, which went on for 4.5 hours.
Shall I quote her?
Well, she said, "Trump is sending the military to shut down protest. What kind of government is this? We have to fight back for everyone, including trans people." You want to give the exact quote?
No, she said there are ruthless attacks that are creating fear and chaos in our communities in the name of law and order. And this is what's happening. And, Gavin Newsom was saying the same thing in his response to Trump, Gavin. Oh, by the way, in terms of Trump Tower, Log Cabin Republicans are having their fundraiser there on June 28th, and it's only $175. And I know we do have some Republican viewers, or Log Cabin types.
Yeah. All right.
That maybe will want to picket that.
Shall we move on?
So Trump has cut the hotline for suicide prevention for LGBTQ youth.
Yeah.
I mean, the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, effective October 1st. This is just, they provide life-saving crisis care to 1.3 million LGBTQ young people and counting.
Senator Markey of Oregon and Representative Becca Balint of Vermont, an out lesbian, have filed a bill to nullify the Trump executive orders against LGBTQ people. But of course, they're Democrats, and none of that is going to get past the obsequious Republican members of the House and Senate.
I should say that our friend Ann Charles did a lovely interview with Becca Balint, in depth, about a half hour on their cable show up there in Vermont, all things LGBTQ. And we're going to link to that in our email. So sign up for our email at gayusatv.org. And of course, it's Pride Month, and you'll be wanting to make your Pride Month donation to KUSA to keep us going. Thank you.
Yeah. One email a week. That's all. One email a week.
Oh,
with
by the
lots of
way, the
extras.
Smithsonian seems to finally be standing up to Trump. They have an independent board of regents.
Yep.
And, Trump said, I'm firing the head of the National Portrait Gallery. And they're saying, no, we're the governing body here. This is,
well, it's ridiculous. It's like he thinks he's in charge of everything in the whole world.
Yes, right.
He can just by fiat announce anything. Well, he doesn't control the Smithsonian. but the Board of Regents does. So the Board of Regents said, excuse me, you're not in charge of us, and we're not firing this head of the portrait gallery.
Okay.
You're going to have to do something else.
Let's give him some good news in San Antonio. Gina Ortiz Jones, now lesbian, was elected the mayor of San Antonio, our 7th largest city. She's 44. She's a former undersecretary of the Air Force under Biden. She won 54-46 over a conservative with ties to Greg Abbott. She'll be the second mayor with Asian heritage to lead a city that is closely associated, of course, with Mexican-American culture.
First woman of color to be mayor of San Antonio. And as you say, it's a big city.
And then Central Alabama Pride was named the inaugural recipient of the Advocates Communities of Pride Award. And it's not just for having a pride parade, it's for the stuff they do in the community. And again, some of you can't see this, but it's going to be on if you're watching live, it's going to be on the Kelly Clarkson show at 3 p.m. Eastern today on NBC. This guy, Josh Coleman, who heads up that group.
Well, sometimes those shows are available on demand afterwards.
Yeah.
So check your guide and see if you can find today's Kelly Clarkson
Iowa
show.
State Senator and longtime LGBTQ advocate Zach Walz is going to run against Joni Ernst, the one who reminds us that we're all going to die. I would suggest he run as an independent in that state, but I think he's running as a Democrat.
Well, yes, and he's not the only Democrat. We talked before about another Democrat, Schoten. Am I making that up?
Not sure.
So I think it's going to be, people are so angry at Joni Ernst, I think a lot of people are jumping into the race.
Run as an independent. You'll have a better chance. All right.
Maybe.
How about that Elon Musk?
What about him?
Well, I'm just saying, and all that fuss happened since we last taped. Of course, he posted on social media, "I love Donald Trump as much as any straight man can love another man." And Rise and Resist is not, even though he's supposedly out of the administration, Rise and Resist is not giving up on him. They went to the Tesla dealership and protested not just Elon, but RFK Jr. and Marco Rubio. Do we have that photo?
No, because we didn't.
All right.
Oh, there it is.
That's a photo by Ellen Nipris.
Thank you to our director for getting that on the fly.
Okay, another loss for Trump in the courts. A federal judge ordered them to unlock hundreds of millions of dollars in housing and transportation funds for New York City that were withheld because of the administration's prohibitions on gender ideology, diversity initiatives, and sanctuary immigrant policies.
Are we really going to have to live through 4 years of this?
Well, yes. I mean, this is, I don't know that we will survive. Many will not survive it. Trump treats those who value diversity. See, this is the thing. Trump treats those who value diversity as violators of the civil rights of white people.
Yes,
that is
exactly.
That is their game.
And they're doing a version of that at the Supreme Court with straight people versus others, because the Supreme Court, as you saw in the headlines this week, ruled that a woman, Marlene Ames, can sue for job discrimination as a straight person because she lost 2 jobs that were eventually filled by gay men. So she immediately interprets that as discrimination against her as a straight woman. Now, so the headlines were that she had won. The truth is that she won the right to sue, and the case itself still has to be adjudicated and tried. And the details I've read about the case seem to indicate very clearly that she lost those jobs because she wasn't qualified for them.
Right.
And that the people who got the jobs, the gay men, were more qualified.
And that the employers didn't know that they were gay men, but she knew, and she says, they're gays, and I'm not getting the job. So it's got to be proved in court.
Yes. Yes. So
and then it was a unanimous decision written by Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, because
that she had the right to sue.
That discrimination against straight people, on the basis of them being straight, is illegal.
Yes, and is a possible concept, but you still have to prove that that's what happened.
Okay. The House Judiciary Committee Republicans just voted to advance a bill that would throw parents and doctors in jail for providing medically necessary care to young trans people. I mean, and now I would hope this is something we can block on the Senate. But
who knows what's going on anywhere. I'm happy to see that employees of the National Institutes of Health came out, wrote an open letter condemning Trump and all his defunding of life-saving research.
Well, the new head of the NIH said, I welcome dissent. So let's see how far that goes.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So look, we've had legal same-sex marriage across the country for 10 years now. The Obergefell decision. But the Southern Baptists are getting around to restoring moral clarity through God's design for gender marriage and the family, and they're calling for defunding Planned Parenthood, ensuring the safety and fairness of female athletic competition, and banning same-sex marriage again.
They have looked at the Dobbs decision and the 50-year campaign to overturn reproductive rights at the Supreme Court. And they're saying to themselves, if the right wing can patiently work on this for 50 years and win in the end, sort of, we can do the same thing. This is our blueprint for how to overturn same-sex marriage.
And yes, and in both cases, majority of people support abortion rights, majority of people support same-sex marriage rights. I mean, we've been reading that there's been some slippage in the polls on some of these things lately, but
not that much.
Not that much.
And what won the reproductive rights abortion decision was not a change in public opinion, but a change in the composition of the court. Getting conservative justices on the court, and those justices are still there. So we have to be very vigilant about this.
Well, how do you think the court's going to react to Trump's loyalty oaths? I mean, they are now.
Wait, I want another note on this. They've come up with a vehicle, at least to begin this campaign against same-sex marriage in the courts, and that is, believe it or not, the Kim Davis case.
No, we've been saying.
Yeah, and Liberty Counsel is representing her and trying to take this to the Supreme Court as a way to undermine marriage rights.
Yes. So, look, that's a case where she didn't want to, because of her religion, do her civic, her job and issue licenses to people. And that may be something that they try to win first. But is that going to overturn the right to get married, at all?
No, it's going to narrow it because it's going to empower those who want to undermine it, but it's not. Well, Dobbs didn't totally get rid of abortion rights. It sent it back to the states and had some caveats.
Okay.
The Southern Baptist campaign also wants to restrict women as pastors and restore parental rights in some heinous, huge way.
Right.
And make sports fair against trans girls. But they're not the only religious act in town. The Kennedy Center, whose destruction we've been following, they've now fired 40 people from the staff, 50 have quit, and they have a new director of faith-based programming. And they have a prayer wall in the Kennedy Center now for people to post written prayers for the nation. The new head of development at a staff meeting asked everybody to engage in a prayer together. The staff said no. And also announced that anyone...
Were they fired?
Not yet, but the head of development said insubordination will be grounds for firing. Their theater ticket sales, we told you their ticket sales in general were down. The theater ticket sales are down 82%.
Well, who would want to go?
Yeah.
So these Trump loyalty oaths, if you work for the administration in a civil service job and not a politically appointed position, you're now being asked to sign an oath to the president and support the administration at every cost. Now, these laws of a nonpartisan civil service were adopted in the 19th century. It was a great reform. It was fantastic. It was, sort of in the 1880s. There were some earlier efforts. And now throw this out the window? That, I mean, I hope the courts can stop that.
Well, a loyalty oath evidently is not enough for trans people in the military. The administration had set a deadline of June 6th, D-Day, for military members who are trans to quit and get out of the military voluntarily. So that deadline has come and gone, and they're throwing people out. If you wanted to get an honorable discharge and extra separation pay, you had to quit. But now some people have left, but some are staying and will fight the discharge.
Katie Ben is a captain in an Army Air Defense Battalion at Fort Campbell in Kentucky. And she, briefly considered giving in because the separation pay was $60,000. But then she remembered the soldier's creed that she had repeated many times in her career. I will always put mission first. I will never accept defeat. I will never quit. And that's her there on the left giving the salute.
Oh, in addition to Dochi's speech at the BET Awards, a former drag race contestant, Alaska, was speaking at LA Pride and said that ICE is a terrorist organization. Human beings are not illegal. Treating people like human beings is not negotiable. Pride is a party, but Pride is also a riot.
Anybody could come here until 1914. You just got on the boat, you got off at Ellis Island, and you were an American.
When were the Chinese exclusion?
Of course, that
things?
came along. There were racist things that came along to exclude others.
Yeah.
And then it was not until the 60s that they lifted all these limitations on people from Asia and things.
Seems unbelievable. And in the military, I'm hopping back and forth. The Naval Academy had taken 381 DEI books off their shelves. Well, they have now been returned, all except about 20 that are still under review. A retired Navy guy was so incensed by this, he started a big fundraiser and he worked with the local bookstore. And they were raising money to put all those books in the local bookstore. But by the time they did that, the books had been returned to the shelves in the Naval Academy.
Andy Borowitz writes that the Trump travel ban is unnecessary. That's another thing that was being protested by Rise and Resist, after the rest of the world shows zero interest in coming to this S-hole country.
Well, he's a good humor writer.
Karine Jean-Pierre has come out as an independent. She was Biden's press secretary. Her new book says, I determined the danger we face as a country requires freeing ourselves out of boxes. Something's got to give. And, I'm all for, people doing it however they can.
Yeah, but I think her impetus is mainly that she's offended at what was done to Biden. I think that's a little specious.
Okay.
How about what he did to us?
In South Carolina, Democrats last Tuesday won a special election for a state house seat in South Carolina by an eye-popping margin. Again, we keep hearing how desperate everything is for the Democrats, but they were making such great gains going into the presidential election that you and I thought that Kamala could win, but it didn't happen. But anyway, so there was I love these special elections.
Yeah, me too. And the New Jersey gubernatorial primaries this week were pretty good news.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. It's
Mikey Sherrill versus Schiccarelli.
The Trump endorsed candidate.
Yeah.
So, you all know about this Riley Gaines. She, complains that she, lost a race because there was a trans woman in it. And she's become a very, a right-wing spokesperson. Simone Biles, the most decorated Olympic gymnast in history, called her sick and a sore loser. You should be uplifting the trans community and perhaps finding a way to make sports inclusive or creating a new avenue where trans people feel safe in sports.
Yeah.
So instead, you bully them. And so Riley responded that Simone Biles, when she had to endure a predatory man, testified in Congress, whereas she's, being set upon by predatory men in the pool.
I don't think the predatory man attacking Simone Biles is equivalent to Riley Gaines losing a swimming race.
Correct. That is correct.
Well, Simone Biles softened her attack a little, saying, look, there's got to be a solution for this that is inclusive, and just cut it out, Riley.
So in Montana, the governor, Greg Gianforte, and the state Republicans, they're very upset that Missoula figured out a way to get around their ban on flying pride flags on government property. So they say, we're coming back in the next session and we're going to fix this. I don't know how they're going to do it.
I don't know. Why don't you have better things to do with your time? No, because then we'd look at your budget bill and we would throw you out of office. All right. Also in Oceanside, California, they've reversed their decision to fly the pride flag. One guy changed his vote after he was harassed by hateful Christians.
Wow.
Speaking of predatory.
What would Jesus do? All right. Lambda Legal Defense, they've been around since 1973. I mean, but they just raised $285 million. This is the largest amount for an LGBT group in history. I mean, I wrote to them and said, how'd you do it? So they have 17 principal donors with $1 million or more each.
That's still not even close to the whole total.
But you know, the campaign has nearly 200 donors. The campaign they got a $25 million gift from the Katharine Graham Trust, the largest in the organization's history, and others. So it's a massive amount of money.
Now, 30% of it will be available now for their work, and 70% of it is in legacy funds that will come to them over the years from other, I guess, trusts and states. But it is amazing, and they do amazing work. So I'm glad that people are paying attention to that.
As does the ACLU and NCLR, used to be the National Center for Lesbian Rights. They just changed their name to the National Center for LGBTQ Rights, but it's still
same
NCLR.
And they're not the first to do that. All right, should we talk about some of the people that we lost and to violence? Yeah. In Philadelphia, a gay chef.
Derwin Darnell Joseph Matthews Jr. shot dead right after Philadelphia Pride on June 2nd. He was a 31-year-old resident of Philadelphia. It was captured on video. The assailant shot Matthews and he was pronounced dead shortly thereafter.
The thinking is that it was a thief trying to steal his cell phone as opposed to a specific hate crime.
So they're not investigating it as a hate crime. But
Derwin was active in the ballroom scene. He was 31 years old.
Yes. And in Los Angeles, police have finally arrested one of the three suspects who had repeatedly assaulted. We have a little video of this. Threatening to kill a 61-year-old transgender convenience store owner. They kept coming back and going after her and, assaulting her. Trans store owner Sabrina de la Pena said the problem began on April 8th when this guy tried to flirt with her in her shop, and he became angry when she didn't come across. Wow.
In Nashville, Tennessee, a trans woman was punched by a moving company or a storage company worker and verbally harassed.
Tyler Flanagan?
Yeah, we have a little video of that. There she is.
Whoa.
Oh my God.
She got clocked.
Holy shit.
Oh, sorry. Should we have censored that? Maybe not.
Well, it was reported to Extra Space Storage, who allegedly didn't take any action to protect Flanagan. It was totally unprovoked. And she said, this was the first time in my years living in Nashville that I've truly feared for my life. I was attacked by a grown man, twice my size.
We've told you about the murder in Texas of Jonathan Joss, a well-known actor, by his neighbor, that he and his husband their house had been burned down by the neighbor.
This is in San Antonio.
Yes, and they had gone back to look at the what was remaining from the house, and they got in a verbal fight with the neighbor, and Jonathan was shot dead. The police chief said, as we reported last week, there he is, this wasn't a hate crime.
Well, on June 5th, he changed his mind. He said that statement was premature, and he admitted we shouldn't have done it because it's way too soon before we had any real information.
Well, I'm glad he recanted. And back to Nashville, where Christian singer Michael Tate of the groups Newsboys and DC Talk has been accused by 3 men of sexual assault and substance abuse.
Yep. And a reminder that June 12th was the 9th anniversary of the Pulse Massacre in Orlando, when 49 people went out to dance and never made it home from a Latin nightclub in LGBTQ club there in Orlando.
We mourn the loss of Professor Jeremy Goldbach in St. Louis, Missouri, died at 42 of cancer.
Yep. For more than 15 years, he dedicated his career to research aimed at reducing stigma and advancing the well-being of LGBTQ children and adolescents. In 2010, he developed Proud and Empowered, a program designed to help empower LGBTQ youth and improve the school climate. He's survived by his husband, Evan, and their children, Elias and Holland.
And one thing, interesting story from Arizona, where a trans woman, Hannah Krieger, age 22, has applied for asylum in Canada.
Right. It's about safety. It's not safe here for trans people. Trans people are under such assault here. So she lodged her asylum claim with the Immigration and Refugee Board in Canada. She has a well-grounded fear of persecution in the United States, and that's what's going on.
Well, we tell these stories every week. In Redwood City, California, 2 13-year-old boys attacked LGBTQ people. Actually, I don't know. They were at a pride event. They threw firecrackers. They yelled slurs. They have been arrested and charged with assault and a hate crime.
Okay. We getting ready for international news?
Yes, I think so.
All right. Well, Geneva had its pride, and the European diplomats turned out for that. There they are. We got a picture of them.
Yeah, well, and they went to, isn't this the group that went to Hungary to march with Budapest Pride?
Yes. Well, I don't think that's happened yet. I think they're going to.
Okay.
The Budapest Pride is June 28th, and there are 70 EU members who are going to, parliament members who are going to try to go there. I mean, they're going to try to do it, even though it is illegal now in Hungary. But we got a decision from the EU Court's Advocate General Tamara Kapeta that said that what you're doing is with this legislation and with all this
it expands harm to children.
Right, exactly. The stigmatizing effects of the Hungarian legislation creates a climate of hostility towards LGBTI persons, and it may affect the feelings, identity, and self-esteem and their self-confidence. And minors are especially affected. And she's also concerned about non-gay kids who are getting the message that, these people are bad. So it's a non-binding decision, but the European Court usually follows whatever the Advocate General's guidance is.
It gives kids permission to do things like throw rocks at pride celebrations. Yes. In the Netherlands, they're holding the Eindhoven sports competition this week. We told you there was a dispute over whether the gold medal winning Olympic boxer Amani Khalif would participate. And after World Boxing mandated sex testing for participants, well, Amani has decided not to compete this week in that competition as these standards or mandates are continue
Donald Trump's
to be.
Favorite boxer talks about her often.
Really?
Oh God, yes. It's one of his prime examples.
Well, he loves going to WWF or E or whatever competitions.
Right.
Makes him a strong man.
All right, AIDS news.
Yeah.
So HHS Secretary Kennedy, his latest offensive is disbanding the vaccine panel. And this is insane. He promised not to do it
Right.
in the hearings. But, there's a new study that says the COVID vaccine technology, mRNA, holds great promise in rooting out HIV from its hiding places. But with all these cuts to HIV research and anti-vaccine prejudice, we may never find out from any researchers in the United States whether this is the case.
Just read a reference to the fact that it would have been helpful in breast cancer research too.
Sure.
Forget it.
I mean, and
Across
vaccines.
the board.
Why aren't people more upset about this losing vaccines?
Well, I think people are upset, but they haven't come out in mass in the streets.
June 14th,
Saturday.
no King's Day.
Yeah.
Find one in your area.
We need a new way to investigate and confirm or not confirm officials, because they all lie now. Everybody who goes before a committee to be investigated for a position just lies.
I would never weaponize the Justice Department.
No, I would never. And Roe v. Wade is a settled law.
Well, that's just squishy language.
But it's all lying.
Every decision the court makes is settled until it's not.
Exactly.
All right.
But we need a better system for that.
But we may win the right to die in New York. State Senator Brad Holman there on the right in this picture got the medical aid in dying bill passed in the Senate. It was already passed in the Assembly. Now it's up to Governor Kathy Hochul. So please tell Governor, she hasn't taken a position on this. So please tell her to sign this bill.
Well, she's getting a lot of pressure from both sides.
From the Catholic bishops.
Yes.
Catholic bishops were against gay marriage. They were against abortion. They're against everything.
Well, she's seen everything through her fight for re-election.
And this
next
is
year.
I think people want the right to die with dignity.
But once again, what the people want, what the people who will give her money and support her campaign want.
Wow.
That's the theme
and
today.
this is a very restrictive thing. You got to have 2 doctors certify you. You got to have only 6 months to live, blah, 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 blah. I mean,
how long was Jimmy Carter in hospice? Years.
That's true. They throw you out off Medicare hospice if you last more than 6 months.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about your friend, ACT UP veteran Jeffrey Griglak, who died at 73. He was a New York ACT UP member, died in Pittsburgh after a long illness.
Really great guy, sweetheart, who just was a great giver. He ran several committees in ACT UP. He came out of a theater background. That's what he wanted. He wanted to be an actor. He studied that. He did some of that. He appeared in a number of road companies and Broadway shows.
Did a lot of arts administration,
Yep.
American Ballet Theater, New
Yep.
York Theater Workshop, New Jersey Performing Arts Center.
Yep.
But in ACT UP, he was active with the Seeing Red Affinity Group. What was that?
You want me to remember 40 years back? Give me a break.
They said his booming voice would ring out in the general meetings,
Actor.
and he channeled his anger at the senseless loss of so many brothers and sisters.
Well, he really was a sweetheart. Not everyone I love everyone in ACT UP, but not everyone was a sweetheart. But he really was. He had a great smile. He was always happy to see you. He was just really easy to work with, really clear about his dedication. Jeffrey was a wonderful guy.
Okay. We got a nice decision and from federal judge John S. Tigar, an Obama appointee, blocking Trump's anti-equity and anti-trans executive orders targeting LGBTQ youth and HIV-serving nonprofits. This is AIDS services. This is gay youth services. He ruled, this was again a Lambda Legal case, and a very critical win, and it applies nationwide.
Yeah. All right.
All right. And okay, you did the NIH. So let's talk about the Tonys.
Let's do, because every year we sit here and we say, those Tonys, they're the gayest thing in the world. They are the gayest show.
And I remember when nobody came out of the Tonys, and but
this topped them all.
It did. And of course, it was primary. Of course, they've had Ariana DeBose as the host for the last 3 years.
Yep.
It was bisexual, right?
Yep.
And now they have Cynthia Erivo, You saw her in Wicked.
There
but
she is. She had about 10 costume changes. I wasn't crazy about her opening number, but the closing number, I'm Not Going, was terrific.
And by the way, she is going to, how Snook
Sarah Snook
did this one
20
woman show of Dorian Gray.
Yeah.
Cynthia's in London is going to be doing a one woman Dracula playing 22 parts.
Oh, I have it as 23. But it's
You're right. She's going to be playing the vampire and 22 other roles.
But it's being done by the same team that did Dorian Gray.
Right.
So this is their specialty. One person shows playing 20 plus parts.
Now, you would have had to watch the pre-show on Pluto,
not the planet,
which is a great metaphor
service.
because it was, it was happening in the same room, but Harvey Firestein got the Lifetime Achievement Award. He gave a wonderful speech, which I'll try to link to in our email. And they should have acknowledged him on the main show. They used to acknowledge all these awards that were given out early with just sound bites in the main program so that you knew what happened.
Right.
But they didn't do that this year.
No, but are we linking to that in the show now?
I'm going to try if I can find the video. Yeah.
Well, we've seen the video, so it's there somewhere. Whether we can get past the CBS
censors.
machine to use it is the question.
The big news was Cola Scola, who won the Tony for Best Actor in a Play, made history as the first non-binary actor to win a Tony for Best Actor in a Play. But their speech was iconic for a different reason. And
many reasons.
So let's.
Thank you for playing Mary Todd Lincoln.
Sorry. I want to thank the other nominees, George and John and Harry and Daniel and Louis. It's an honor to be in your company, and more than that, it's been a sincere pleasure spending time with you over these warm salads at all these luncheons. I have to thank. First of all, hi Mom, I love you. I'll call you when I can. 23 seconds. Sam Pingleton and the producers, Lucas McMahon and Carly Briglia, Mike Lavoie and Kevin McCollum, and the cast, Conrad, James, Bianca, Tony, the extended cast, and most importantly, the most important people in my life, my friends who are here tonight, Jeffrey, Jen, Ben, everyone watching at home, Christian, Dakota, the whole gang, John, Claudia, and Tebow from Grindr, and Amy Sedaris, who always reminds me how important she is to me, and she is. Okay, thank you very much. Good night.
But he doesn't want Amy Sedaris to take that role and outdo him. Excuse me. Cole.
I don't think anyone's going to outdo Cole. So yeah, but slipping in a thank you to T-Bone from Grindr was very cute.
Yes.
And that getup, the dress, the hair, everything was a tribute to Bernadette Peters,
There you go.
who he has portrayed many times.
They have portrayed.
Thank you.
See,
They have portrayed.
We're trying to concentrate, Cole.
We're trying to concentrate on 6 things at a time. Bernadette said that Cole did a great job with the outfit, but she wore the chest hair a little differently.
Bernadette's a great sport.
But I want to remind you of when you may have first seen Cole 17 years ago on this show when we ran one of his YouTube videos.
We discovered him.
They and Jeffrey Self were a performing pair. I assume his reference to Jeffrey was to Jeffrey Self. And they did a little skit about same-sex marriage being legalized in California.
Massachusetts has been the only state in the United States where gay marriage has.
Who would you take to California then, if it wasn't me? Like, if you had to get married right now, who would you take? Michael?
I don't know. I mean, I don't.
Michael Arden.
I don't know who I'd take to.
Well, newsflash: Michael has a boyfriend.
I'm not,
and it's not you.
I'm not saying that.
And he's actually cuter than you too. So, Hunter.
No.
Taylor.
No.
Kevin.
No.
Scott Nevins.
No. I mean, Cole, I don't want to marry Michael. I don't want to marry his boyfriend. I don't want to marry you. I don't want to marry anybody. I don't want to get married right now. I'm just saying that I think this is a very exciting thing for civil rights that this is happening.
Skylar.
No.
TJ.
No.
Brent.
No.
Colin.
No.
You think that I'm just gonna sit around and wait for you to change your mind and decide that you want to marry me? Then you're
Your Supreme Court took a giant leap to ensure that the state
well, apparently he
of
thinks
California,
he can do better than
but
me.
throughout the
So
country,
he doesn't want to
will have equal treatment under the law. So
I don't know,
the
Mom.
city
I don't know.
Attorney.
Is that
Now, did you catch the reference in that played out at the Tonys?
no?
Michael Arden
Oh, right.
is the director of Maybe Happy Ending
Right.
and won the Tony
That's right.
and was clearly a friend of Jeffrey and Cole 17
There you
years
go.
ago.
And the show Smash, which I enjoyed, closed right after the Tonys because they didn't win any Tonys. And somebody said, well, maybe people are kind of over, don't really care about Marilyn Monroe or know who she is anymore. I said, what about Mary Todd Lincoln? She died in 1882.
And Michael Arden, when he won the Tony.
And that's who Cole plays
Yes.
in Oh, Mary.
Yes. And I've talked to a couple of people who hated the show because they just didn't go with it.
Exactly. If you don't get it, then that's okay.
That's
Gustibus non et disputandum.
Ashrakun Songu. But Michael Arden got up to accept his Tony and he said, and if there are any queer people watching tonight, pause, happy Pride. It was
How
very
nice.
cute. Yeah.
And then, of course, the best play didn't go to Oh, Mary, which I had actually predicted, but it went to a extremely worthy play, which I enjoyed very much, Purpose, by the out gay Brandon Jacob Jenkins. We have a picture of him with his crew there, do we not? Accepting. There he is in the center.
And he referred to his husband in his acceptance
And it's a
speech.
wonderful play. And then a show that is closed, Yellowface, which was terrific. It didn't win Best Revival, but Francis Jew won for Best Featured Actor. And he is only the second Asian actor to win in that
and an out
category.
gay man.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm talking about him. I'm not talking about everybody.
Sometimes you have to be explicit with these things.
And of course, Nicole Scherzinger is the second Asian woman to win for Best Actress in a Musical. And Darren Criss made history as the first Asian American actor to win Best Actor in a musical. He used to be in Glee, playing a gay guy. He's not gay himself.
And Jack Malone gave a very interesting acceptance speech.
Now, he's not gay either, but he plays a woman, Hester, in Operation Mincemeat.
And he gave this speech about if you bought into this or I just did a few things to appear to be a woman and goodbye to the binary.
Yes, he said, I come out there every night and I do this and people weep for Hester and they invest in her and they love her for her romantic heart. And if you watched our show and found yourself believing in Hester, then I am so glad to tell you that intentionally or otherwise, you might have just bid farewell to cynicism, to outdated ideas, to that rotten old binary, and opened yourself up to a world that is already out there in glorious technoculture and that isn't going away anytime soon. And I'm glad I read that because if I ran the clip, you got to say it so fast you couldn't understand it.
Jonathan Groff made 2 appearances.
Out gay actor.
Yes, in a bit from the Bobby Darin show he's doing, and in the Hamilton rerun where he played King George. And he was introduced with the Bobby Darin bit by Cynthia Erivo, who went up in the balcony to say, Jonathan Groff is famous for spitting on everyone.
Well, it's true.
And she said, Jonathan Groff, the man who makes everyone wet.
Well, he does. He announces that at the beginning of Just in Time. He says, you're going to get wet during this show because he's sweating and he just, when he sings and he talks loud, he spits.
I thought as he began singing, he was playing Bobby Darin a little gay.
Well, it's a great show. I mean, he lost to Darren Criss, but it was a very tight race.
And one of the first and best LGBTQ references was in the opening song by the cast of Death Becomes Her, singing their hit song, Anything for the Gays, which is a double entendre.
G-A-Z-E.
G-A-Z-E, but could be interpreted otherwise, because look at the costumes they're wearing. There's Megan Hilty dressed as the trans flag.
Yep.
And the chorus behind her in each color of the rainbow singing Anything for the Gays. That I thought was quite cute.
Yes.
And when Maybe Happy Ending won as Best Musical, the producer referred to his husband, Jason. And
we're not even getting to the craft awards on the pre-show.
And Cynthia Erivo, in her closing number, which was a rewritten version of I'm Not Going, had some spontaneous lines like, where is it? I just lost it.
How are you, Ann?
I'm fine, especially if I can find it. It was something about, Cole created quite a scene, Broadway's newest queen.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. And then what's this?
If you can probably watch the whole Tonys on demand or on CBS.com because they aired
Yeah?
it. Yes. CBS.com. You can see the whole Tonys.
Okay. All right. Tell me about Mickey and Minnie and this rainbow thing.
Oh, well, Disney went through that whole thing with DeSantis about defending the gays, stepping back from defending the gays. Well, they've stepped forward.
Got this picture?
Again,
There we are.
they're Mickey and Minnie in pride outfits, Minnie's bow. So in terms of merchandise, they're doing pride merchandise.
And Alison Bechtel has a new book, Spent.
Yes, it's a comic auto fiction. It's about her, but the question she raises is, can she pull humanity out of its death spiral by writing a scathingly self-critical memoir about her own greed and privilege?
We can only hope.
Yes, that sounds certainly compelling.
A reminder that the Sally Ride documentary called Sally premieres on National Geographic on June 16th and streams on Disney and Hulu on June 17th.
Okay.
And then a gay wedding is going to be celebrated next week, June 23rd, on Days of Our Lives.
That's actually 2 weeks.
Well, June 23rd, whenever.
Yeah.
Longtime couple Paul and Andrew, portrayed by Christopher Sean and Colton Little, are going to wed. So, that's, and it also streams on Peacock.
It only streams on Peacock. It used to be on NBC for many years, but soap operas have dwindled over the years, and Days of Our Lives is now available
Do you still have a story?
Shh.
Okay.
All right. And also on Peacock and Amazon Prime is a new show called Alphabet Soup. And it's a documentary about young people dating in New York City. And it is a very wacky and diverse cast. I've seen just a little of the first episode. And it's not a competition dating show.
Say the name of it again.
Alphabet Soup.
Okay.
Because it covers all the members of the LGBTQIA plus alphabet. But it's very different, and it is a documentary about dating. It's not about it's not a competition.
We're almost out of time here, but again, we'll be out there on June 14th, and hope you will be too for
Yes.
No King's Day, protesting the
York's-
monstrous Trump administration, because we have to show up and show that we can turn out a lot more people than he can.
Bryant Park at 2 p.m. on Saturday for those in New York City, but No King's Day.
1,800 cities across the country.
Go to No King's Day and find your city. And we'll be here next week.